for being here. Is this your first time checking me out? If it is, do yourself a favor, go back and watch episode 0 of this series, Activating Your Self Love. That episode will break down and give you a description of what this series is about. And then watch episode 1, which is just breaking down the definition of what self love is. There is a homework assignment attached to that. And then come back here to episode 2 and you will be caught up. If you've been here with me, I want to thank you. Thank you for the support. Hope you did your homework, like I just mentioned a few seconds ago, if you've been following me since the beginning of this series, because when we talk about activating your self love, it is very important that you go through a lot of the exercises that I talk about throughout this entire series. So, make sure that you're doing your homework episode to episode. Okay. So, what we want to talk about today in this episode is something called extreme forgiveness. And you're probably asking, like, Ace, what does forgiveness have to do with self love? Well, extreme forgiveness has a lot to do with your self love and being able to activate it, because your forgiveness, and what we're going to be focused on today, is dealing with a lot of the situations and the people that you've dealt with in your past that you didn't resolve. Okay. And this is what we're going to be talking about today in this episode: extreme forgiveness. Okay. We're going to be going back into your past and we're going to help you uncover some unresolved issues that you still have laying dormant in your energy field, laying dormant in your aura. And we want to help you remove those today. All right. And that's what we're going to be talking about today: extreme forgiveness. And again, extreme forgiveness is dealing with your past. And when you look back at your past, you'll probably notice that when people do things to you, you take it personal. Okay. I don't know about you, but that's how I was in my past. Like, when something was done to me, it rubbed me a certain way, and we really took it personal. And then we take it a step further and we let it go, and we really didn't bring any attention or any healing to that situation, whether it was dealing with a family member, dealing with a friend, dealing with something that happened at school. We're just a combination of a lot of unresolved experiences that have taken place in our lives, and we didn't really resolve. We didn't resolve any of them. We just kind of like let it go. I could remember going through this extreme forgiveness exercise with just myself, and it took me back to a situation where I was 6 years old and a bunch of kids jumped me. Okay. And at that time, I didn't know it was because I was black and they were white that they jumped me. And it was all done out of ignorance. But what happened from that event was it created trauma in my life as a 6 year old. And I took that with me for a number of years and didn't resolve it, didn't heal that inner child that was wounded back then. Okay. Because I didn't see it coming. I didn't see the attack coming. I didn't see any of it. I didn't even see the buildup. And it wasn't until later on that I realized that, wow, this was done to me because I look different. Okay. And it could have been the opposite. It could have been me and a group of, my black friends, and attack somebody of a different color that's white. So it's not, I don't want to focus so much on that. What I want to point to is that in our lifetime, we have a lot of situations that take place with us, and we don't really go through the steps to heal that aspect of us. And what happens when these different situations happen, we get put into something called trauma, and then that trauma then turns into a program, because the ego, which is your protector, has to figure out, if this happens again, what you're going to do about it. Okay. And that's why a lot of times you might get triggered, get angry, you might lash out, okay, at an individual. And then later on, you're like, why did I do that? Well, it's because of the built in trauma that you had, and the program that just triggers you to act a certain way in order to respond in a way where you feel like you're protecting yourself. Okay. So that's what extreme forgiveness is about. Okay. So let's talk about why we want to go through the extreme forgiveness. Okay. Well, Number one, it leads to liberation. You see, every time you hold something in your vibration about someone else that isn't productive, it will manifest in the physical. Okay. Just like you get on the scale and there's a certain amount of weight that the weighing device on the floor tells you, hey, you're X amount of pounds. And you may say, hey, I want to shed some of these pounds. I got to eat different. I got to exercise. Well, guess what? There is that same principle works with vibration and energy that we hold within our etheric field and within our aura. That is also weight as well, and it can be heavy. It can weigh you down. So that's why extreme forgiveness is so important, because if you're mad at me and then you put yourself in a situation where you're carrying whatever happened between us and you're carrying it, you're losing sleep, you're not productive through the day, that builds up in you and then it can manifest in the physical. Okay. And that's why extreme forgiveness is so important. So, extreme forgiveness leads to liberation, more freedom. It leads to better health. Okay. Because the more you feel lighter within you, guess what? The more productive you can feel. So it leads to better health. Okay. It removes self-judgment, it removes resentment, and it also puts your vibration and your energy level at a much higher state. And that's why extreme forgiveness is so important. So you may say, well, what am I forgiving? Well, you're forgiving everything and everyone, including you, the present you, the you from a year ago, the you from 5 years ago, the you that did a bad business deal, the you that did anything that you are holding onto your vibration that is not allowing you to just be freer within yourself. Okay, so that's what this extreme forgiveness exercise is all about. Okay, now, one thing I do want to tell you before we get into the steps of how we're going to do this extreme forgiveness, you are going to find yourself in a kind of like a battle with your own self. Okay. So let's just take me. I did something horribly wrong to you. Okay. Something that you took personal, something that you're holding in your vibration. And you're like, okay, I can just say, forgive Ace. Okay. Well, as soon as you say that, your ego's like, no, you can't forgive Ace because Ace did this to you. And if you forgive him, you're the punk, you're the sucker. Okay. So you're going to have that mental going back and forth with yourself as it relates to extreme forgiveness with some people, not all of them. Some of the people you're going to find very easy to forgive and move on. Others, they're going to be very, very, very challenging, okay, based on the situation that happened. Okay, so we want to put ourselves in a state where we can genuinely forgive the individual, forgive the situation, forgive ourselves, okay, and then move into a state where we can then genuinely love that individual, genuinely love ourselves more, and then free ourselves up to just be more productive as we journey through this thing called life. I hope that makes sense to you. Okay, so just understand that at first it's going to seem awkward, it's going to be some mental tug of war, but it gets easier as you continue to move forward. Okay, and again, the whole goal is, as we go through this exercise, is for you to reach a state of peace through this entire process and be able to let go. Okay. Just think about this for a minute. Imagine if you could let go of all the pain and all the suffering that you went through, that you've been holding in your system since you were born. What would that look like? How free and liberating would that make you feel if you can just wipe all that clean? If you can get rid of all the trauma? Okay, this extreme forgiveness is something serious and it's another way of activating your self-love. Okay. Now, let me check my notes real quick. Make sure I'm not forgetting anything here. Um all right. So, what I want to do now is I want to take you through the simple steps of activating your self-love by extreme forgiveness. Okay, now the first thing you want to do is you want to get a sheet of paper out. Okay, hopefully you guys have like a spiritual journal. If you're going to be watching these videos with me, it's always best to have a journal where you can take some notes, okay, and jot some things down. But you want to get a sheet of paper, and you want to immediately start with a minimum of 10 people or 10 situations that you know you need to forgive, that you know you need to work on as far as healing from within. Okay. And as soon as it comes to mind, don't judge it, just write it down. Okay. And if I'm on that list, put me at the very top, Ace. Okay. Whoever else, family members, ex-girlfriends, ex-boyfriends, spouses, whoever, everybody's on that list. Put your kids on there, whoever you need to, that you feel that I've been holding on to something as it relates to them. Okay. And you don't have to stop at 10, but we want to start with a minimum of 10. You might have 25. I'm still adding to my list because I go through this exercise every solitary day. And what I found is that the more that I'm forgiving and the more that I'm cleaning, the more that I'm finding out that, okay, Ace, this happened here or that happened there with this person, and I have to add that to the list. But just start with a minimum of 10 people, 10 different situations, however you want to classify it as you go through this exercise. All right. Now, for every person or every situation that you're trying to clean and wipe out of your system, it's going to take about 3 to 4 minutes. All right. So let's say Ace is the first person on your list. Yes, I'm using myself as a guinea pig. All right. And you and I got into a nasty argument. Doesn't matter how far back it happened, but every time you think about me, you experience this feeling, and you know what I'm talking about, this feeling in you that doesn't feel good. Okay, so you're sitting down. I do mine during my meditation. So there's a couple different steps that I guide myself through the meditation, and one portion of my quiet time and meditation time is allocated just for this exercise called extreme forgiveness. So Ace is at the top of the list. You want to close your eyes, and for about 60 seconds you take yourself back to the situation, and you feel the whatever it is. You feel it. Okay, you bring it to life. It's important that you bring it to the forefront so it's front and center, because this is you telling the universe, hey, I am ready to release this. So you have to bring it up. So you spend about 60 seconds and you bring the emotion of what you felt with the argument, how it made you feel, how you walked away. You bring all of that back. You spend about 60 seconds on it. Okay. Not You're not going to be there for a whole long time, no longer than 2 minutes. Okay. After you do that, this is the second step. Step number two is this, and this is going to be a quick twist for you. You then start to empathize and work on understanding why Ace did that to you. And see, that's difficult for most people. It was difficult for me in the beginning because I'm like, what? Okay, it's one thing to say, okay, I forgive and forget. But what this exercise does is it creates empathy with the individual that did you wrong. And for you to put your mindset in a state where I'm like, okay, I can see how they did this. Okay. So in my case, you might be like, you know what? Ace was having a bad day. Ace had a tough child. Whatever you want to do, you work on the empathy. See, this is very important because you and I are one. So when you see me and I see you, we see each other in ourselves. So how can we move past that if we don't create the healing? Okay. So you want to create this empathy. Okay. I see how they did that. Okay. And then once you've done the empathy, this is step three. And this is how you know that you've gotten beyond this. Step three is you have to see yourself embracing that individual. So now you have to hug Ace and feel nothing but genuine love for Ace and yourself. That's what this is about. Okay? That's what this is about. So, those are the steps. You relive it, you empathize, and then you do it to a point where you say, you know what, I can now love this individual as I love myself. And that's the key component. Okay. Now, when you're going through the list, take one name at a time. And if I did something horrible, I'm just using an example, but if something horrible took place between us, you may have to go through that exercise multiple days before you get to the point where you can now embrace me with love as you would love yourself. Okay. Some, it's going to be real simple. Like, hey, I brought it up, I empathize, bam, I can hug this individual and keep it moving. But there are going to be some that are tougher. Okay. Now, there's a whole nother side of this, which is the spiritual side, which is the invisible side. Because in a lot of cases, I'm going to give you an example. I went through a situation a number of years ago where a guy that I considered a brother to me was running around in a circle of people that we knew and was just lying about me. Like, just lying. Okay. And I'm going to tell you something. Back then, I was crushed. You know how we are about our name and don't say nothing bad. I mean, I was an ego. I was crushed. I mean, there were many sleepless nights just because this guy was going around lying about me. I knew it wasn't true. I knew it was made up. Okay. But I was lightweight offended. Like, what? I mean, to the point where I'm like, no, I wanted to go back to one of my other one of my other personalities and just step to him. I mean, I was that triggered by the entire situation. And this went on for months, okay? Because I had people coming to me saying, yeah, you know, what's the name saying this about you? And I'm like, what? And I got to a point where I said, you know what? I got to forgive this because it was keeping me up at night and it was lodged in my system. True story. So now, this is the other side of the coin. The same individual that was spreading these lies about me was trying to befriend me, was trying to talk to me like week upon week after week, a couple times a week, sending me messages. You would think that they would have got the message that, okay, there's a reason why Ace isn't responding, but it didn't matter. Like just trying to get in touch with me. And I'm just ignoring it because I didn't want anything to do with it. So I got to a place where I said, you know what? I have to release this. So in one of my meditations, that's what I did. I forgave him, I forgave myself, and I forgave the situation. Okay. And I did that for a number of days. And you know what happened? He stopped communicating with me, just like out of the blue. He stopped, all communication ceased. All the lies that were running around me, all of it stopped just like that. And that's the invisible stuff that happens with the universe when you practice this exercise of extreme forgiveness. I'll give you another story that happened with me. So, an individual that I work with, one of my businesses, I manage sales teams, and one of the individuals that I worked with a number of years ago was doing something fraudulent, getting customers, and then wanted to get paid on these fraudulent customers on the back end. And so he would call me up, and this one particular conversation, it got heated. He got loud, started cussing me out, this, that, and the other, literally drained all my energy. The very next morning, I went into forgiveness mode. I said, you know what? I'm forgiving this kid because he's operating in ignorance, just doesn't know any better. It's nothing against me. He's just in that mindset. I forgave him, forgave myself, forgave the situation. Okay. This was a little easier because I really didn't have a strong connection with this individual. So I forgave it, forgave the entire thing, and I let it go. A couple days later, He left me a voice message, and I saw the call come in, but I had reached a point where I said, "No, I've forgiven this. I've dealt with it. I'm done with it. It's time for me to move on." So I didn't listen to the message immediately when it came in. It wasn't until about 2, 3 days later, something in my spirit said, Ace, you need to just listen to this message. I pressed, play to hear the message back, and he literally spent about a minute and a half apologizing to me. How crazy is that? Because we had no communication between the heated argument and between his recorded message to me. The only thing I did in the middle was practice the forgiveness piece, and it led to that. So what you may find as you're working with some of these people on your list is that you may hear from them. They may change how they talk to you. Okay. And I can't tell you in each case what's going to happen, but I will tell you this: when you release it, you will know it's been released. You really will. Okay. So, want to go over those steps again. You want to make up your list. All right. You want to spend about a minute and do what? Bring it up front and center with the individual. All right. Then you want to empathize. And then you want to feel yourself being able to hug this individual in love like you would hug yourself. Okay. And no, you don't have to go find these individuals and do it physically. No, you just have to do it with your spirit so you know that you released it. Okay. And you want to go through every person on your list, every situation. And you're going to be on this list too. Okay. I had to do a lot of self forgiveness with myself. Okay. A couple bad deals I did in business. I had to forgive myself for that and let it go so that I can move on. I had to clear that space. Okay. A couple judgments. It could be anything. You may have stole something from a family member, and you feel weird about it, this, that, and the other. And it's not enough to just say, hey, I'm not going to do it again. No, you have to go through the forgiveness work in order to clear that out of your energy field. Okay. So step one, after you make the list, you want to bring it front and center. Step two, you want to empathize. And step three, you want to see yourself embracing that individual as you would embrace yourself in genuine love. And when you feel that genuine love come up, you know you have dealt with it, and you can then finally release it. Okay. So when I go through the forgiveness thing, I want to forgive the individual. I want to forgive myself, and want to forgive the situation. Something that I got from conversations with God, and this is a book by Neil Donald Walsh, and God's having a communication with Neil, and he said, I've sent you nothing but angels. And that this is what this means. Every individual that you have an interaction with is there to teach you something. And the people that put you through the most pain are the same people that give you the greatest opportunities to get better on your life journey. I want you to think about that. So, some of your greatest teachers are individuals that are going to present the greatest pain. And I know that's not easy to swallow, as we're talking through it, because it felt real, and it felt like, you felt attacked, you felt violated, you felt like a victim. But when you really start looking at things from a spiritual lens, from a spiritual side, you start to break down some of the denseness that you're holding in your vibration about a particular thing. Okay, so go through the exercise. Take your time with it. If you have any questions, definitely reach out to me, but take your time with it, because this extreme forgiveness, this entire exercise, can put you in a situation where you feel a lot lighter in your aura and in your energy field, and you will feel better as an individual as you journey through life. Okay. Hey, that's my time. Love and respect. And I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.